name is Sara Asher. I am 28, born and raised from Eugene, Oregon. Currently, I am unable to work due to my illness. I live with ulcerative colitis and a few other autoimmune diseases. And cannabis has really helped me achieve quality of life when pharmaceuticals have failed. So I like to think of myself as a patient advocate, helping those particularly with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis gain access to cannabis, but also know how to use cannabis as medicine and getting doctors on board with prescribing cannabis to patients. I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 2014, like I had mentioned earlier, kind of around the spike of the opioid crisis, if you will. And so I get diagnosed with this super painful disease. I mean, it's very, very painful. And the gastroenterologists are like, no, absolutely not. You can get constipated. That's worse for your disease. And so I was noticing, like, how are these doctors wanting to treat pain? And when I would bring up cannabis, I would immediately get shut down. Immediately. Even living in Eugene, Oregon, constantly getting bogged down with inaccurate information. And honestly, it sounds sad, but I don't even talk to my doctors about it. And honestly, the only doctor that writes off on my med card has her large intestine removed too. So no GI will really talk about it. And it makes me really sad because I think people are suffering. And it really comes down to, if you are an adult in the state of Oregon, you have access to a dispensary pretty close by. But my boyfriend's had Crohn's disease since he was a child and made it through 75 days of high school, barely can hold on to 100 pounds. And I would love to see gastroenterologists really find the value in cannabis for these pediatric Crohn's and colitis patients, because this is a very simple fix to get weight gain up, malnutrition issues completely gone, get better school attendance rates. I mean, I don't know how they expect kids to pay attention in school if they're nauseous, can't get lunch down, have to run to the bathroom and deal with the embarrassment of that. But also when you're on these drugs that they treat you with, you have no immune system. So you're constantly sick with germs all the time. And so I really want to be able to find some sort of way that we can get gastroenterologists to look at medical cannabis within the IBD community, but most importantly for the kids, because I see firsthand how much having this disease be so severely active at a young age, what it can do to you for the rest of your life. And I think they're turning a blind eye and just giving kids pharmaceuticals. I'm also super passionate about talking about Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis because they are bathroom diseases. They're butt diseases. You talk about anus and rectums and bleeding out your butt, and it's not a pretty disease. And I think a lot of people are very afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to say, I have this wrong with me, and I want to let people know that it's okay. There's a high comorbidity of mental health issues, suicidality, addiction, and I think if we all just talk about, hey, I have Crohn's, hey, I have a bag, and it's okay, look at what I can do now with a bag. I wouldn't have been able to travel up here to Portland. I would have never been able to do those things had I not got surgery. And so I think it's important that we fight the stigma of cannabis and ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, but also just fight the stigma of having the disease itself. And so this is a bag that I have attached to my abdomen at all times. It collects stool. I had my large intestine, my rectum, and my anus removed. My disease had completely blown through that intestine completely. So I chose to have a permanent bag, and I look at it as my lifesaver, and I look at it as I get a new chance at life. I'm not constantly living in the bathroom. I can eat, I can be in a car and not have an accident. So I really want to continue using my social media platform to really talk about ostomies and normalize them, because it is a reality for so many people with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. And for people that have been in accidents or shootings, ostomies are very, very common, but people are embarrassed to talk about them like they are with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. It's very frustrating. And so I do a lot of my social media advocacy work online and trying to get people to realize these drugs are expensive, and they never they don't allow other countries to dictate the price of these drugs. And my Humira cost over $250,000 in 2015. My boyfriend has Crohn's disease, which is similar to ulcerative colitis, and his drugs are $30,000 a month. I don't know how they expect people to pay for it, and a lot of people have to put themselves into poverty-like situations to even be able to get on these drugs. So I need people to know that. The pharmaceutical greed that happens in this country is very unique to the United States, and people just take it as at face value that this is how it is. And people really need to understand that Big Pharma keeps us sick and wants to keep us sick. They don't want to look for cures, and they definitely want to downplay cannabis because they know that they'd probably lose 2/3 of their revenue. I was able to get rid of 16 medications once I added cannabis. I still needed biologics to function, but I was able to get rid of a lot of the anti-nausea, the pain meds. Yeah, so it's pretty substantial. So I've really received a lot of my information about cannabis, really with trial and error with myself. I have 4 different autoimmune diseases, gastrointestinal to neurological, that really can have a wide array of symptoms. And so I've really spent a lot of time figuring out what terpenes and what cannabinoid contents work for certain nerve pain issues, certain gastrointestinal issues, but also talking with other people that have my same disease. What works for you? Sometimes a high CBD doesn't work for that person. I'll tell them, if you can, bump up the THC a little bit. Let's kind of get that entourage effect really working. So really a lot of it is trial and error, and that kind of can be hard to get patients to really want to be involved in because they're used to 5 milligrams of prednisone every morning. I don't have a milligram. I don't have a certain hour I need to take it. And so that's where people, I think, really struggle with switching over to medical cannabis, is it's using something as a breakthrough relief symptom, not necessarily every 4 hours you need to have a certain milligram amount. And so I think that's also where doctors get very anti-cannabis as well, as they don't know how to prescribe it. The stoner stigma, it's alive and well, and it's everywhere, and it really is unfortunate as a medical cannabis patient to have that, because I didn't choose to be sick, but I want to choose to be well, and I feel like I get a label placed on me. And when I went in for my colorectal surgery follow-up appointment, my paperwork said that I was an illicit drug user. Not because of the oxycodone 60 milligrams per day after surgery, not because of that, but because I'm a medical cannabis user. So I would like people to know that you can be productive and use medical cannabis. You can work and use medical cannabis. You can do everything and use medical cannabis, and that does not mean you're lazy. That does not mean you are unmotivated to do anything. It actually helps me get off the couch. It helps me be able to eat. It helps me be able to eat and keep food down to have energy to go grocery shopping. And so I wish people would see that. It's not just to get high. It's not just to sleep better or to just zone out. It's really, I want to feel better, and I think I deserve that right. And every other medical cannabis patient deserves that right as well.